Vince Cubis, manager, Card Now.
Central Coast office.
Indeed. And a major player in the infrastructure engineering consulting space for the Central Coast. And I've got to say, up until very recently, unknown to Mark Cleary.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks, Mark.
So you've been here, the company's been here?
Yeah, since 1992, and in early 2001 I joined the company. The Cardno MBK was formed between an amalgamation of Cardno and Davies, a Queensland-based firm, and Macmillan Britton and Kell, a Sydney-based consulting office, and we've grown considerably since then as a company. The Cardno offices now have 6,500 staff across the world, and it's grown from an Australian office. So
extraordinary. We might talk about some of the areas you've worked in most recently, and supporting documentation for Wyong's trip to Canberra. Talking about things that I'm now finding out were talked about quite a while ago as well, but as long as they're still talking. What does Cardno do that is different to the rest of the consultants in the engineering space, do you think?
I suppose that a company as big as us have a number of experts in all different aspects of consulting. All the different disciplines, be it water and sewer, or building structures, or civil design, road design, environmental work. We've got an expert go-to person in all of those disciplines that is a great thing to have as a backup. So for a regional office that has 20 odd people in it, and with any issues that come up, it can be referred to these experts, and those people relied on to give you the right answers to move projects forward.
And are your clients generally big clients, big organisations?
No, we've got a diverse from, there might be an extension to a house for a client that we will help them out on that, and to large multi-storey structural projects, or road designs, or any of those sorts of projects.
Or documents that look at the potential for fast rail, or
yeah, we've recently completed a fast rail and airport and services link through the Central Coast, and it's a great future project for someone to take up on.
May not be too far in the future. Well, we just mentioned, we've talked to the people who do the talking and the negotiation in Kyle Loades and John Taylor.
Yeah.
You have the privilege or the obligation to deliver it once they get the money, I guess, is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of parts to delivering a project of that sort of size, and there'd be a lot of parts to it that could be done by a number of different people. So yeah.
And it may be not a politically appropriate question, and you can address it if you want, but infrastructure is, we talk about infrastructure on the Central Coast as being one of our biggest flaws. We seem to play catch up all the time. From your perspective, are we catching up in any of that, or are we still behind the eight ball?
I think we're going backwards, to be quite honest. The the rail links take longer to get to Sydney than they did 30 years ago. With the number of population, or the increase in population, as the centre of the Sydney population moves further north and link up with Newcastle, we've still only got a single road to link the two, and it's just shown to be inadequate.
And not linked basically to anything, it's just, it ends, doesn't it?
Yeah, and links that were in place have been sold off and etc. back back in the 80s. So yeah, it's the longer it goes without resolving these issues, the harder it is. You know, everything's becoming harder to do, more approvals, and
is it going to be easier to connect to somewhere like Newcastle, right? If you look at, arteries are only arteries while ever you can flow material through them.
Yep.
Would it not be better to just say, okay, well, we'll be a region associated to the Hunter rather than a region associated to Sydney, from an infrastructure point of view?
The Central Coast is its own region. I suppose the problem the Central Coast has is that it really doesn't have its own infrastructure, and it's not. We don't have any major industry that drives the construction of that infrastructure. So the Hunter has all their mines and their port and etc. Sydney has its own. It's got enough to keep the population and industry growing, but the Central Coast doesn't have any sort of industry. It's really the tourist and the construction or development industry, and unfortunately both of those you can't have a tourist industry if you don't have a destination or an ability to get to that destination.
I had a horrible, you may not have heard, but Greece is in a bit of a dire strait now because they reminded me of the Central Coast.
Yeah.
It's all about tourism,
Yeah.
and if that stops, then where are we?
Yeah.
Yeah, and even to have that tourism, like you say, you've got to have an in-pipe,
Yeah.
you have an out-pipe.
We've certainly got the resources to do, the Sarah Lees and the
sanitariums.
The sanitariums, the Chickadee chickens, or the Ingham chickens now. All of those base industries, we'd need to be encouraging those people to be working on the coast. We've got a great resource in all of the staff. I've got 17-year-old son and 15-year-old and 11-year-old daughter, and it looks like they'd have to go to Sydney to be able to get any work or move out of the region. So it's a big concern for everyone.
Yeah, indeed. Are we taken seriously? We did talk off camera about discussions with Albanese several years ago.
Yeah. That's something that I haven't really been involved in.
No.
But
does anyone take us seriously as a region, do you think?
As a region, I think we have got a population as big as Canberra, yet we really aren't. It's sort of there's this divide and conquer. If we were going to put up any project and we had a commitment for somebody to do this project, you'd have people placarding saying, well, we're against it, and anyone who has the resolve to try and do the work and has the money to spend look at it and go, well, if you were a politician and you had $50 million to spend, and every way you turned on the Central Coast, everybody stood out with their placards trying to stop the work, well, you'd quickly go, well, where can I go? Let's go to Wollongong, perhaps, where they're unified and working together, and it's a win for them.
So do you think it is about one voice?
I think we need to be unified in what we're doing, and again, if somebody's got $100 million to spend at Gosford, let's grab it. I mean, I'm sure the view from the stadium isn't going to decide whether people come to the stadium or not. Let's move forward and get going on it.
Yeah. And we do have that battle, and the ones who can most benefit often get ignored, I think.
Yeah.
And you've got children who deserve. Well, they may not want to stay with their parents. I'm not going to go there, but at some point it would be good to have them around.
Yeah, that's right. But the immediate thing is that we've got 20 odd people in the office there at Gosford. They've all got jobs. They've all got families and what have you, that are relying on, to an extent, the economy, because we do work out of the region as well, but you know, the majority of the work comes locally, and we need to, you know, foster that and continue to grow the region.
One thing, and we offer to our interviewees, is a bit of a rant or a soapbox to stand on. You know, if you could change something, Vince, what would you change in the region?
I think if you could improve the infrastructure, it would make people who are looking at getting the industry going, they'd be thinking, well, if we go to Gosford or go to Wyong or any part of the Central Coast, and we can have on-tap resources in that there's heaps of people who would like to be working at Wyong or Gosford or any of the other, Erina or anywhere. And if we can get them and stop them driving 3 hours, and you know, your environmental side of things is that you haven't got people jumping in cars, and you know, they've got to get back their family life. You've got,
they're energised. All of a sudden, they've got a life.
Yeah, and it's not a. I did commute for a number of years down to Sydney and back when I was from Avoca Beach, and you know, when you do actually have the time, you know, your family life improves, and you can do things with the kids that you've been wanting to do, and yeah, it's a great thing. But we need to give the opportunities to people to do that and get off that freeway, and that'll improve the coast for sure.
So when we talk about development and infrastructure, we've got NBN, broadband,
yes,
happening. Is that going to be a boon for your office?
There's always a trouble with infrastructure in trying to get that speed of the computers to help, particularly in an office that we've got, as I say, 6,500 staff, and we communicate. We like to have video links, because with the video links you provide you put the message across to the person you're dealing with, rather than, you know, hearing someone on the phone.
Absolutely.
So those things are moving towards making people work everywhere from a space, and if we can do that, that'll encourage people to stop commuting if we can do that, and that's again a great win.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much.
Okay.